if you just want to you can use that link for your archive. And again, that's just for your own personal use, and please don't share that with others, as you've paid for it, and that's yours. Cool. Any other things to let folks know about, Kathy? Maybe for those of you who are just joining us and aren't familiar with the format, maybe just lay out how this is going to work in the next 90 minutes.
Yeah, and should we bring Abigail in for that?
Yeah, let's say hi to Abigail Washburn, coming to us from Tennessee in front of a wall of banjo cases. Let's see, Abby, are you there?
I'm here. I'm here. I'm
There
here.
she is.
I'm
Hey!
Cool.
here. I'm here.
There she is,
Yay!
everybody. Abigail Washburn.
Hi, friends.
So, Abby, we're just going over sort of I won't say the rules, but the modus operandi for this. We thought we'd include you on that, even though I think you know the drill, and then we'll get started. It's like a big old game of Hollywood Squares. Correct. Okay, so folks, before I even go over the rules and stuff, we are just more than delighted to have Abigail Washburn with us. She's been playing old time music for a long time. She was in one of my favorite old time bands, Uncle Earl. She does a lot of music on her own. She does a lot of music in various different world music configurations, specifically around Chinese music. Has a brand new album on Smithsonian Folkways with Wu Feng. Did I say that correctly?
Wu Fei.
Wu Fei. And in addition to that, does a lot of music with her husband Bela Fleck, and is the awesome mom of two adorable boys, and has a terrific workshop lined up for you. So in the way that we usually run these, we ask that you stay muted unless we open the mics, which we sometimes do from time to time. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. And we ask you to not use the chat for social time. We sort of do that on the concerts and people say howdy to each other, but this is makes it easier for Brad or myself to be monitoring the chat for specific questions. If a question comes up and it's an immediate question, we'll go ahead and interrupt you, Abby, just not to be impolite, but to say, hey, so and so has this question. If it can wait, we might wait and ask it a little bit later. And we will be putting in the chat whatever tuning Abby is working from. So we're starting in double C tuning, folks, and that would be at the top of the chat, G C G C D. All right. You can save the chat later if you need or want to, but I think I'm just going to be quiet now and turn it over to our banjo star of the day. And everybody, get your banjos in tune, and let's have a great big welcome for Abigail Washburn.
Woo. Hi, everybody. I'm very excited to be here with you. Uh, I too, I don't know if I think I heard a few people say during the original, just the chat here that we just had, that it can get lonesome being isolated and in quarantine, and sure enough for me too. Even though I'm running around chasing a toddler and homeschooling a 7-year old, it gets hard to be you know isolated from our communities that we would rather be sitting in a huge room with tons of banjos together, swapping tunes, telling stories. Um, so I miss you guys, and I'm really glad that we have this chance, thanks to Kathy and Brad, to creating community in the ways we have right now, which I'm very grateful for. So I'm glad to be with you. And I'm thrilled once again that I locked the basement door and Bela is in charge upstairs. I hope the house doesn't burn down. If I smell smoke, I will take action. But other than that, I'm with you. Okay. Let's see. So I want to start by just sharing with you a little bit about my banjo journey. And I started playing banjo when I was 21. I was in my senior year of college. And I really believe, because I can't believe still, it's still a shock to me that I was able to start playing banjo at the age of 21 and end up having a professional career doing it. what I didn't know at the time, and what I have tremendous reverence for now, is that this this folk music tradition that we're all a part of is this particular one, the old time um, Appalachian music scene that I've found myself in the middle of, really appreciates uh, just the desire to be a part of it. I don't find it to be an exclusive community in general. I think it's a really loving, inclusive community, and that's really one of the reasons I ended up being drawn to it. I had a boyfriend in college who played bluegrass, and I started seeing how clearly, although there are amazing women in bluegrass and it's changing constantly, how bluegrass was so male oriented. It was the sound of male voices. It was mostly men I was seeing out there, and the idea of soloing just wasn't that exciting to me. I was like, I don't need to show off my chops. I just want to groove with people. I want to be with people in a space sharing music and tradition and the ancient sound of our cultures. And that's what another reason I was drawn to old time music too, the inclusivity of it. Um, so I started playing the banjo at 21, not predicting in any way that I would have a career in it, or that I would just fall in love with it so deeply and want to do it my whole life. But sure enough, I did, and I was as soon as I wanted to start expanding my ability within banjo music at the age of 21, I saw that there was. I was living in Vermont at the time, and I lived in Vermont for 3 years as an assistant lobbyist and a lobbyist in state government. And I started playing the old time banjo right before I moved to Vermont for those 3 years. And so while I was in Vermont, I was very busy, but I ended up going to the Banjo Camp North. I can't quite remember. I was 23 years old or something. And I got to see all these tremendous players. Reed Martin, Alan Jabor, Bruce Molsky was there, Peggy Seeger. It was just an incredible, incredible group. And they told me that I should keep playing. They loved my singing and my playing on the banjo, and it made a really big difference to me in my sense of myself and my identity as someone who could be a musician. And it was really exciting for me. And when I came back from that, I found a flyer, and there was a Dwight Diller workshop a couple months later that I went to in the middle of winter in Vermont. I bet some of you are up in Vermont. I had to drive over little roads to get there. It was out in the middle of nowhere. I can't even remember where now. Somebody who had a heated barn that put a workshop together for Dwight. And I loved learning about him and his inspirations in West Virginia, and started understanding um, the local, the sense of local in old time music, as well as this general shared tradition. And that got me excited too. And then I went to the Augusta Heritage Center right before I thought I was moving to China to go to law school. And I had an amazing experience there during the Old Time Fiddlers Weekend in October. I can't remember what year this was now, but it was a moment ago, maybe 2002, I think. And I got to see Ron Mullinex play, and I got to see a bunch of amazing music being played in Elkins in that way. Hopefully, some of you have been to Augusta. Maybe a bunch of you have. It's such a special place. And I immediately felt wrapped into the community, and really proud to be a part of it. And again, there were people that said, "That's the way you sing and play is something I want to hear." And the fact that people wanted to hear me sing and play as I was just learning how to do this made all the difference in the world to me to want to keep going. Um, and then I ran into Casey Groves from Uncle Earl at the International Bluegrass Music Association convention as I was on my way doing this special trip where I went to Augusta and I went to IBMA to learn more about banjo traditions. I also meditated right before I went to both Augusta for 5 days in Massachusetts, and I think it had a big impact on me. So there I had my 5 days of meditating. I went down to Augusta Heritage Center. I was like, whoa, I'm so open. and I started really feeling the vibes in a major way, and had such a wonderful experience there. And then I met Casey Groves of Uncle Earl at the IBMA, and she said, hey, would you ever want to just come jam with Uncle Earl? And so I did. And I ended up becoming a part of the band. And Raina Gellert soon after became a part of the band too. She's an amazing fiddler. I imagine you know her. If you don't, check it out. She's got a bunch of wonderful recordings. First one was Ways of the World. It's still such a great classic. And she led me. I said, Raina, if you could play with any banjo player in the world, who is it that you would just love to sit next to and play with? Because I'm going to be playing with you and Uncle Earl, and I'd like to learn a few chops from whoever that is, so I can make you happy. Because at least in Uncle Earl, we were always trying to make the fiddler happy, which I think happens a lot in old time music. We want to support the fiddle, just driving us home. And so she said, I love Riley Bogus. She gave me his phone number. We didn't have these mediums at the time, so I called him and I asked him on a landline, and I asked him if I could come visit him, and he said sure. And I was planning to sleep in my truck, but of course he was asleep. He's such a sweet guy. I showed up at his door for 2 days of lessons. I think I stayed for 4 days, and he let me sleep on his couch, and it was really sweet. So a lot of what I know and I'm going to share with you happened in those 4 days with Riley Bogus in Walkertown, North Carolina, learning from him, going to the local barbecue shacks, and um, trying to become a banjo player that Raina would like. And along the way, I fell madly in love with the way Riley plays, um, and yet since that time, I've continued to listen to so many different banjo players, as we all do, and I've been inspired by so many. And so I try to incorporate all the bits and pieces of technique that I see people doing that I feel like can help me grow my playing, things that I feel magnetically drawn to. And those are the things I'm going to share with you today, because I'm not look, I'm married to Bela Fleck. If you don't know him, he's an amazing, he's just a virtuosic musician. And I have such deep respect for what he does. It's not what I do, and I've had to get so clear about that, being um, mirrored by my partner over and over again, who is this virtuosic musician. I've had to get clearer and clearer about who I am and my limitations, and finding my own voice and love for what I can do, and believing that what I have to offer is really worthwhile and special. And I feel that the more I incorporate the generous voices of the banjo players around me that I'm drawn to, that I love in the old time tradition, the more I become myself. Isn't that cool? Oh, it's so neat. So, I wanted to share that process with you today, of the things I've heard others doing that I then incorporated into my playing, that started to give me lots of choices about the ways I play tunes, or the ways I arrange songs, or arrange tunes that have vocals on them. And um, maybe we should just dive right in there, because I think it's a really. I will tell you, some of the major inspirations in my playing have been Peggy Seeger, Buell Kazee, the Coon Creek Girls, Bascom Lunsford, Charlie Poole, Clarence Ashley, Ola Belle Reed. Gosh, when I was just getting started, the Freight Hoppers were just hardcore on the scene, and I loved listening to Frank Lee and their whole band, and that intense energy they had. Bruce Molsky, Kathy Fink, just Alice Gerard. I mean, so many wonderful inspirations. Uncle Dave Macon, if I didn't say that. Yeah, and now my friends around me. Gosh, Rhiannon Giddens, Layla McCullough, Allison Russell, so many wonderful, Adam Hurt, Brad. I mean, the people that you're watching this weekend, Paul and Nora and Hillary. So we have such a rich community to draw from, and you finding out what you're magnetically drawn to is probably, at least this is what I'm sharing for you from my life. Whatever you're magnetically drawn to is the thing you're going to love doing. So I hope I share something with you today that you want to make a part of your playing, that you get excited about, that infuses a tune that's getting a little stale for you with some new energy, or excites you about actually singing with a fiddle tune that you never wanted to sing before. Yeah, so those are some of the things. So we are going to start in the and I assume most of you have banjos. If you don't, there will be more storytelling, etc., as we go on. But if you do have a banjo, I am going to share a lot of specifics with you. If you don't have a banjo, you need one. Buy one. Get one. Begin playing the banjo in your life. It will bring you true happiness. All right. So we are going to start in the tuning that Kathy already told you I was in. Oh, and I did want to share with Tom Garrett in Wisconsin, who I heard early on saying that he really wanted a Chinese tutorial during this. I will definitely teach Chinese. Okay, that was a joke, because he said he he wasn't going to learn Chinese today. Tom, I'm glad you're here from Wisconsin. Thanks. I hope it's beautiful up there in the fall. Okay, so we are going to start with what I call the open C or double C tuning. And that would be a G for your drone string, your fifth string. Fourth string is down at a C. And middle string is at a G. And your second string is at a C. And then your first string is at a D. And I imagine you all got there already because Kathy shared that with you. So I will dive in. I'm going to sing a very simple one-part tune, and I'm just going to sing the one part over and over, and I'm going to share with you all the different ways I think about playing underneath singing a vocal of a simple one-part tune. And sometimes it includes melody, and a lot of times it doesn't, because the banjo is has such a fabulous way of creating texture and sound to support a fiddle or to support a vocal, or to just be an accompanying instrument for a solo singer-songwriter such as myself. And that's what I really am drawn to exploring, is that those textures I can create on the banjo that make it a mighty collaborator with me as a vocalist. So we're going to start with Fall on My Knees, which is a simple, wonderful tune that I learned from Riley Bogus in the round peak tradition. So one of the first things I want to share with you, and I'll just sing it a little bit so we all just hear it. So already there I've used so many different things. I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. Look up, look down that long lonesome road, for you travel on, little girl, for you travel on. Okay, so I'm going to start. I have a list of about 8 different things I am doing and 8 different options for what you can do on this tune, either to support a fiddle, either to just play by yourself, or to support a vocal. And I'm going to push this down a little bit. You might just see half of my forehead, but you'll see more of my banjo, which I think is better in this situation. So some of you may already know the basics of round peak. But this is the round peak style I learned from Riley. Perhaps it's a little bit different from you. Perhaps it's the same, but it'll be review for some and something really exciting and new for other people. So I'm going to take my first finger and I'm going to strike down. Let me put this over my shoulder. And I'm going to strike down on the second string. Now here's the really exciting part. Now I'm going to pull off on the second fret with my middle finger on the first string. So strike down with your first finger on the second string and then pull off on the neck on the second fret with your middle finger. Okay, we got that? Let's do it over and over a couple times. Great. Okay, now it's going to get so much more exciting. Okay, so we strike down with our first finger on the second string, pull off on the second fret of the first string with our middle finger. Then with our middle finger right here, we are going to strike down on the first string. So that goes first finger on second string, pull off second fret, strike down middle finger, first string, pull up on the drone. Okay, let's do that again. I'll say it one more time. Strike down with the first finger, second string, pull off, second fret, first string, middle finger, strike down with the middle finger on the first string, and off with the thumb. Okay, so we're going to make that a little faster now. Let's piece it all together. Strike down with the first string on the second string, pull off, strike with the middle finger on the first string, and pull up on the drone. Let's play together. Now I'm gonna go a little faster so you can just hear what starts to happen as you start to speed up, and it becomes like a roll. And then I can move my first finger down and play different notes as I go. So that's the same as before. Now, instead of striking the second string with my first finger, I'm going to strike the middle string. And I'm going to pull off on my second roll. And then I'm going to pull off, do everything else the same. Pull off second fret with the middle finger. And I'm going to strike with the middle finger on the top and on the on the first string, and pull off on the drum string on the fifth string. Now go to the lowest. Now I'm going to do that a little faster. A lot faster. Now, if this is new to you, it took me weeks to get any kind of speed doing that that basic round peak roll. So have patience with yourself and just enjoy. Get yourself a smoothie, a milkshake, sit back in the lounge chair, and just do it over and over again till it gets faster and faster. And just so you know, your one chord in this double C tuning, G C G C D, is having your middle finger on the second fret of the first string. That's your major C. That's your one chord. And then your four chord, and this is going to be important because we're going to incorporate different chords into the round peak style, is to put your let's see, it's always hard backwards, isn't it? But I will show you that I have my first finger on the second fret of the third string, and I have my ring finger on the third fret of the first string, and that is my four chord, or my F. So now we are going to do the round peak roll in F. And this tune has three chords, as many old time tunes do, if they even have that many. And it does have the C, F, and D. Okay, so here is the F chord. Just strike it and make sure it sort of sounds like mine. Great. And now let's go back and forth just for a moment, just brushing between the C, major C, with your middle finger on the second fret of the first string. And now we're going to put down again our first finger on the second fret of the third string, and our ring finger on the third fret of the first string. There's our four chord. Great, and that's important because we can do a lot of the song just doing that. So we're going to step away from round peak for just a moment and just experience what it would be like to support the fiddle, play the tune in our minds, or sing along with this tune, just brushing the chords. But I have to introduce the third chord to you before we can move on and do that. So the third chord would be the 5 chord, or in this case, is it? Oh my goodness. I'm not a music theory person, but I will show you what I'm doing. This is the D. So you're going to put your Yes, it is the 5 chord. You're going to put your first finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, the low string, and you're going to put your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 2nd string. Oh, sorry. Yowza. Okay. That's what it should sound like. Okay, so let's go from this 5 chord. We're going to go the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. So I'm just going to sing for you a little bit, doing this with the lyrics. Sorry, I'm tuning for a moment. Here we go. I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. All right, so we are going to start with the 1 chord. I fall on my, then we go to the 4 chord, knees, pray, back to the 1 chord, 2, back to the 4 chord, you, back to the 1 chord, come and, now we're going to the 5, stay with, back to the 1, me, little girl, 4 chord, come and 5 chord, stay with me. 1, 1 and 4, 4, 1, 1 and 4, 4, 1, 1 and 5 and 1 and 4, 1, 1 and 5 and 4. So this is an option. You just brush. I guess you could call it diamonds, but the way I do it is just to brush across the strings lightly. I play on the neck. A lot of people play on the banjo head. I just found this preference, I think, from the fit of my body. I like the sound of it on the neck. So I will strike down doing a soft brush, and I use all 3 of these fingers when I brush on my banjo. So I get a little bit of articulation of each of the strings several times as a result. But it sounds like a brush. So I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. That is one option. The fiddle's going bound, jicka jicka bound, 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 jicka jicka bound, 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 bound. Boom, 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 boom. You see, you got my vibes. All right. Now I'm going to move on to back to the round peak again. That I sort of was introducing one of the harder concepts right at the beginning, but I'm glad you could see that the drop thumb, just the plain old stroke, the brush stroke can be a background to the tune. We could also do twice as many of those. We could, I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. And that would be enough. So that is one of the tools I use all the time in arranging songs or tunes. All right, now I'm going to come back to round peak a little later because I'd like to do a few more of the sort of simpler ideas here. Now, that was just brushing all of it. You can also do a frailing, which is where you hit a note and then brush and then pull up on the drone string. So in this case, let's kind of stick to the 2nd string played with your, well, it doesn't really matter how you play on this. So frailing, do whatever you do. But we're going to keep our 1 chord there, and we're just going to hit a note, whatever note. In this case, I'll probably hit the middle string and pull up. So strike down on the middle string with whatever finger you like to use, and then brush and then pull off on the drone string. Your basic frailing technique. I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. So there's that. And I'm going to go a little quicker because I have a number of other ideas to share with you too. So there we go. We've tried basic brushing. We've done frailing. Now we're going to do drop thumb the entire way through. So I imagine most of you have a hold on what drop thumb is, but in case you don't, I will just show you. In my case, I strike down on the first string with my pointer finger, and then I pull up on the second string with my thumb. Then I strike down again on the first string with my pointer finger, and then I pull up on the drone string. So it looks like strike down, first string, first pointer finger, up, strike down with the drone string. Sorry, strike down with the thumb on the second string, strike down again with the first finger on the first string, and then up on the fifth string. And again, get your recliner, your smoothie, your milkshake, whatever, and just practice it for days. You get faster and faster. So now we're going to try that chord progression with just drop thumbing. So I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. Let's do that again. I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. Nice. So you can do that the whole way through. You can also rake the whole way through, which is kind of like a brush that's even more highly articulated. So it would sound like I fall on my knees. And with a rake, I also include the fifth string, which is significant. So with a brush, I'm just striking with these three fingers the four strings. But with a rake, I'm methodically moving these fingers over the strings to create an articulated sound with each string and then pulling up on the fifth string. And some people like to just use these two fingers, and some people like to use all three. I like all three. I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. Right. You can do it twice. I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. It's a little messier, but it works. All right, then, okay, so we've done brushing, we've done frailing, we've done drop thumb, we've done raking, all behind this one tune. Then we can also do a hammer-on with the chords, using the chords to do the hammer-on, not the melody, just the chords. So the hammer-on would be the finger placement for the chords. You would just hammer it on after you've struck the string. So in this case, I'm going to strike all the three strings, the first, second, and third string. And so I strike the strings, and then I hammer on to the second fret of the first string. I fall on my knees, I fall on my knees. And you can do that with the four chord as well. So you strike the three strings, the first, second, and third strings, and then right away, nice. And you can do the same thing with the fifth, with the 5 chord. You just, I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. I fall on, let's see if I can do it. I fall on my knees. No, I can't figure out how to do it twice, but you can do it once. And you can also combine that hammer-on with a drop thumb. That can be pretty neat. So you strike those 3 strings, the first, second, and third string, hammer on, and then add in a little drop thumb. I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. Now I'm going to go show you one of the things I love so much, and it took me quite a while to learn this. Kathy, Brad, there's probably an appropriate term for this, and I would love to learn it from you at this moment, but I call it the backwards roll or the crossover drop thumb, and it's where you are doing your basic drop thumb technique, right? You're striking down on the first string with your pointer finger, pulling off on the second string. Nothing's fretted, and then you strike down again. So strike down with your pointer finger on the first string, pull off on the second string with your thumb, strike down again with your pointer finger on the first string, and then pull off on the fifth string. So that is your basic drop thumb, or that's the way I learned it. Well, now we are going to cross over, which to me means I take my first finger, it starts all the same. So strike down with the first finger on the first string, pull off on the second string with your thumb, then drop down with your first finger on the middle string, third string, and pull up on the drone. Is that new to anyone? Is that new and exciting to anyone?
I don't know a name for that roll. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love that so much. I use it all the time to just back up fiddle tunes and singing. Yes, I will review where the pull-off was. Okay, let's see. Oh, there is no pull-off in this one at this moment. So don't worry about your left hand. Just go floomp, take a rest, left hand. Unless you're left-handed. Okay. So you are going to strike down with your first finger on the first string and then pull off on the second string with your thumb. Then you're going to move the whole operation down and put your first finger on that third string, middle string, strike down, and then pull off on the drone string. And as you get faster at it, it sounds like this. And that can be something you just use over and over again behind a fiddle or behind your own singing on a tune. Or you can just throw it into when you are featuring yourself playing a banjo tune. So I will just do it here. Let's see. I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. Let's do that again. I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. Great. You are going to be be so sick of those words in this song unless you love it as much as I do. And I appreciate you for listening to something over and over again, but I think that's the way we learn. So, all right. So that is one of my favorite things in my toolbox by far, and it always surprises me when I pull it out and excites me. I go, "Ooh, I can do that backwards, roll, crossover, drop thumb thing." And I did learn that specifically from listening to Riley Bogus play a couple of different tunes, including Little Satchel and Cumberland Gap, because he uses that a lot in those, and I think he uses it in general in a lot of things. And I assume he got that idea from Fred Cockrum, but I don't know for sure. I wish he was here to answer that question. Okay, here's another thing, is double timing the drone string, or at least that's what I call it, which means when you want to create a little bit of space to hear other harmonies that might be happening either in your voice or something the fiddle or the band is doing, you don't have to keep dropping your thumb or frailing lots of notes. In fact, it can really get in the way and cover up a beautiful harmony that could be happening, or just some space that you need in the music. So one thing that has become really helpful to me, and I know people do, just as you start playing lots of tunes, you probably end up doing this quite a bit, but it would be, let me get this first. I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. So the idea there is you have some choices to make, what your anchor note is going to be on the one, but do you want it to be a brush? Do you want it to be one note? So this would be one note, right? Or I really should play two notes because I do want a little bit of the harmony to show. Depends who you're playing with, what instruments you're playing with, etc. If you're in a foreign country, which I've done a lot, where I end up doing a lot of droning and creating space with this technique because I don't want to get in the way of harmonics and harmonies that I don't understand, but I still feel like I can play with if I keep it simple. This is a great way to keep it simple when you find yourself in Azerbaijan playing with someone and trying to figure out how to collaborate. Or anyone, anywhere, or in America, certainly it's plenty diverse that you could find yourself in a group with somebody who's playing an instrument that really is unique. You just find a tuning that works and you drone your butt off. All right. So I thought, I guess I could do one. Sorry, I went somewhere else, but yeah, that's the one note. Now, if you want to share more of what the chord is, the chordal harmonic with people, then you can strike more of the strings and create more of a brush sound. Now, which strings you choose is a big deal. So I would say let's just stay on our first two strings right here for the moment. Just stay right here. I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. I've up, looked down, long lonesome road, for you travel on, little girl, for you travel on. All right. Another thing that can create a ton of space but also have a real rhythmic offering, and I saw somebody, I was also going to say, when you're doing that, the double timing of the drum string is what I call it. I don't know if that's music theoretically correct, but when you're doing it, I would still suggest doing the full, pressing down on the full chord, even though you're only striking the top two strings, because there is a resonance, and that's the beautiful thing about the banjo, is all of the wonderful sound that's swirling around in here. And if you prefer to have it chordally more ambiguous or obtuse, then let go of some of those other strings. But if you want it to be I want people to hear the one chord, the four chord, and the five chord. Then even though you're not striking the strings that really pronounce that harmony fully, you're going to hear it in the resonance, and that's significant. That's a nuance that is really important to recognize your impact, the impact you're making on the music with other people or on the ears of the people listening to you. Whether or not you choose to push down is a big deal. Kathy, did you want to say something?
Yeah, a couple of people have asked if you would show that double timing slowly again, please.
Oh, sure. Thanks. Okay.
Folks, don't forget you can go back and look at the video, all right? Because we're at 12:50, and I know Abby's got a lot of other stuff that she wants to cover too. So let's get this one more time, and then we'll keep it moving.
I may have chosen too much to cover, so I just wanted to show you all the tools I use, my tool basket. I feel like that's probably the wisdom I have to share with you, because I am not a great innovator on this instrument, but I do use these tools all the time in my playing. It might be helpful to you. So I will do the double. Go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, and there was one more question. Is there another note between the two drones? So you'll probably see that when she slows it down up close again.
All right. So we are, in this case, we are not going for obtuse or ambiguous chording. So we are going to go ahead and do the chording that we've been doing, even though we're not actually striking all of those notes. So let's see. So I'm going to strike the top two strings because I do like the amount of harmony that represents in what we're doing at this moment. So I'm going to strike those two top strings. So I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. I fall on my knees, stay with you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. I fall. Do I do more than that? I fall on my knees, stay with you, come and stay with me, little girl, Okay, I will move on. I hope that brought some clarity. I am now going to share. I'm going to share two more things before I move on to sharing with you the process of me learning an old time tune and turning it into falling in love with the tuning and the banjo and the way it sounds, and having that inspire new music new music. We're all a part of an ancient line, lest we forget. Okay, so here is a what would I call this? It's basically striking using the low string, especially in this wonderful double C tuning. Oh, what a magnificent tuning it is! It's open, it's rich, it's beautiful, it resonates. Just the intervals are. Oof, I feel like my digestion gets better when I play in this tuning. There are all kinds of opportunities for drone, and not just with what we call the drone string or the fifth string. There's a lot of opportunity for drone with the low string. So in this case, I fall on my knees. In fact, I situations where just playing the low string might end up being the thing to do, and it might end up being the thing that moves you and fits with the other people you're playing with, or you just enjoy doing it on your own. But let's just listen to this against the drone, okay? I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. Now I went ahead and continued to chord because the vibration of that low string is going to affect the rest of the strings. You're going to hear the sound of those chords, and I wanted the closed chord sound in this case. As closed chords get in the double C tuning without a capo. So you can add that low drone in an alternating fashion, basically, with your drone string, and have a whole lot of droning going on. Whole lot of droning going on. Maybe that should be the name of a workshop sometime. Okay, so I fall on my knees. Now I'm gonna kind of incorporate some other techniques using the low string to drone. Come and stay with me, little girl. Come and stay with me. So I'm hitting that on basically on the one every time. So I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. Okay, and I'll show that to you slowly. So when you don't have to worry about playing the melody, and even when you do, you can sneak in this low drone all the time to embellish the fact that you are droning. Get the lows and the highs in there. So I strike down on the fourth string, the low string, with my first finger. And I'm going to use a drop thumb in between. So instead of that, I'm going to go. Wait, does it go? Yep, so I strike down on the low string and up on the drone, the fifth string. So in the beginning, I was kind of I was sneaking a brush stroke in there, and instead of just the double thumb, I was kind of brushing into the double thumb. But I'm going to keep it simple. Just hit this low string, pull up on the drone, then go down here and do my double thumb. Then I switch the chords and I strike. So that's the idea. I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. So that's a whole lot of use of your low string there. And if it ends up you just happen to be in a jam where you are the lowest instrument, use away. And even if you're not, you could create a sort of a harmony drone with another instrument that is lower than you. Guitar, you could say, hey, why don't you play a fifth lower, or whatever sounds good in that situation. We'll both strike our drones constantly, you know. Okay, so we are going to move on to the last little bit in my toolbox that I'm really excited about. And this is the percussive hit that someone was talking about earlier. Which is something you can do. I've loved turning the banjo into a drum that contributes to a musical situation, or it becomes a texture that I can sing over or a fiddle can play over. I've done this a lot with Raina in Uncle Earl, which is where I play. And this is a little different than the percussive hit, but I'm using the percussive hit in it. So I guess I need to break it out into two things. One is muting all your strings and playing more like a percussion instrument. And that would be, it's just really fun And in that case, I do move my hand to the neck where it meets the head, and I move my hand down onto to the drum head or the banjo head. And you are just basically doing the round peak. I am doing the round peak, roll right here, which is striking down. Again, it's just review. I'm striking down with my first finger on the second string. But I am not pulling off up the neck. I'm just doing that. So I'm striking down with my first finger on the second string and striking down with my middle finger on the first string. And then I'm pulling off on the drone string. So. And that could be a really fun thing to switch to all of a sudden in the middle of a jam, or in the middle of just playing a tune that you play anyway. And then you can do the double drone thing. It's fun. I won't spend too much time on that because you can just play around with it. You can do different techniques that you love. Maybe you just like to frail. Just do your frailing technique, but hit down a little bit harder with your claw so that you can get some real energy going, some inertia. You can also do double thumb. Just really surprised people do it slow. Sounds like a clock ticking. Yeah. All right. Now, the percussive hit within within playing with letting the rings sing. I mean, the strings sing or ring. Is a different issue. So I know somebody could spend probably a whole hour talking about this, but I'll just give you the long and short of it. I'm able to do the percussive hit because of learning round peak style of banjo playing. So that again we will be pulling off in this instance up the neck. So one more time, we strike down with our first finger on the second string, pull off up the neck, then strike down with our middle finger on the first string that we just pulled off on, and up on the fifth string, the drone string, with the thumb. Whoop. Oh, I'm probably making you guys sick. And this is where I throw in the cluck, or the percussive hit, which is strike down on the first string, pull off on the second string. Sorry, strike down with your first finger on the second string, pull off with your first finger on the second fret of the first string, then okay. So what replaces that hit with so we strike down, second string, first finger, pull off, then this is the percussive hit. And it is basically a playing of the first string with the middle finger while allowing the pointer finger to come down and mute it. It's a muting action. The first finger says, hey, middle finger, you do not, or first finger, pointer finger says, middle finger, you do not get to keep that sound going. I am going to mute you. And it is a minute amount of time between the hit on that first string with that middle finger and the pointer finger coming down to mute it.
Hey, Abby, there's a question here.
Yeah.
Will there be time to explore how to get good tone on the pull off, whether pulling off from open or fretted?
Oh, um, yeah. Okay, this is from Teresa, right?
Yeah.
Hi, Teresa. Sure. Let's look at that for a moment because I wasn't going to go much further with the percussive because that is really a I don't know. Kathy and Brad would probably have a wonderful way to enhance talking about that. If you have anything you want to add, Kathy or Brad, in the chat, please do about that. Unless you want to just say it right now. Do you have anything you want to offer about the percussive hit that's helpful in sharing with other people?
Not a thing. You're doing a perfect job.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kathy. Boosting my confidence in the middle. Thank you. Um, yes. So getting good tone off out of that pull off of the neck, right? That's the question. That's a huge deal. Um, and it has a lot to do with the finger strength of the finger you're using and your willingness to slap it on there or pull it off. And it has everything to do with grace. It has everything to do with calculating in the moment, um, both technically and intuitively, what's going to work, what sounds good. And the only way I can tell you to learn how to do that is to do it over and over again until you find a tone that you really like. And you can do that without using this hand at all. So just spend some time. These could be warm ups for your fingers that just make them a little stronger, you know? So, like right now, I have my middle finger on that first fret. Gosh, just play that over and over again until you get good tone when you pull off and when you hammer on. And I'm getting excited just doing that and having you ask that question because I'm like, I could do a whole accompaniment with just pulling off and hammering on if I can get my fingers strong enough. That just right there already gave me a good little indent. So here's to building big calluses. um, so a lot of just get in that recliner, your milkshake, your smoothie, your cup of coffee. Maybe for a lot of you would pick up. I took myself off caffeine because I just get jittery and I'm not as nice to the kids, you know. You're so I look forward to that someday in my future again, coffee and wine. But for now, it's sober, committed life. Okay, so pull off, strike on. Try it on different. Try it on different. There will be different challenges as you look, you know, as you go inward and you're not just on the outer strings. You'll have the challenge of having to avoid the other strings if you want just the sound solely of that one string of the hammer off and pull off and hammer on. But you could get you could get have some fun with it too, because maybe you want to pull off on both. See, I'm figuring out that my pull off was a little too strong and it was making a tang sound and overwhelming the sound of the hammer on that came afterwards. So, oh, there's so many possibilities. So that would be my suggestion for just diving in a little bit more to that beautiful quality of sound you can get if you just get some good calluses and you spend time thinking about the quality of sound you want for the hammer on and the pull off and how they relate to each other and how they relate to whatever. Maybe you want to emphasize it, in which case you would in this round peak roll. If you want to emphasize it, then you have to play everything a little quieter, I think, based on my touch. Or maybe you just really want it to be in there, tucked in, so that just you can feel it, but you don't really hear the tone. Which is an exciting way to go to. And That reminds me of one more thing I really wanted to show you guys. So I was so excited when I discovered this when I was working on some different songs. And this might mean, I think I probably can't show you as much as I would have liked to on my last bit, but I do think these tools are really important and really exciting for me. Um, so another one is it is the drop thumb pull off technique that gives you what do you call it? It decorates it's ornamentation, I guess, on the note that's being pulled off. So I'll show you specifically what I'm doing. So this is, I use this a lot in my playing, and it's when I want to add just a little bit of spice, a little bit of ornamentation to something I'm already playing. But it would be hitting with your with your pointer finger on the first string, then pulling off with your thumb on the middle string, which is being fretted on the second fret. Can you see me? Oh, there I am. So it's being fretted on the second fret of that middle string, third string. So I'm striking down on the first string, pulling off on the fretted middle string, then I am, or drop thumbing on the middle string, and then I am pulling off up the fret, up the neck, and then I'm hitting down low with my first finger on the fourth string. So fret again the middle string with your finger on the second fret, or third string. So striking down with the first finger again on the first string, striking down the pointer finger on the first string, pulling off on the fretted at the second fret, third string with the thumb, or I call it a pull off, but it's really just double thumbing down. Then after you pull that, you are going to pull off up the neck on the fret, and then come down with your finger, your pointer finger to the low string, and then pull up on the drone or the fifth string. So you can hear it in there. I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay, wee little girl, come and stay with me. So you can hear it on that 4 chord. I'm doing it. I fall on my knees, come and stay with me, little girl, come and stay with me. Okay, just a fun little thing. And you can just mix that into tunes whenever you want to, when you see an occasion. Kathy.
Hey, we've got about 15 minutes left.
Great.
And the incredible detail that you're showing is phenomenal, because it really is exactly as you described about the nuance and how you get the nuance without necessarily being notey, without necessarily left hand fancy, but the right hand. I keep putting in the chat, hey folks, I hope you noticed that Abigail talked about spending 5 days learning one of these patterns. And repetition is everything. You're all looking at way too much Netflix right now. Just have your banjo in your hand, cover up the strings, practice these patterns, because if you get each individual pattern, then you'll be able to mix and match them a bit. I just wanted to open up for questions. Maybe we'll, you know what I would say is, let's see. The last one is that timed like a triplet. That
Ooh,
was a question from Sarah Brown.
I don't know.
I
That's,
don't think so.
I don't think so. I think that's why I'm calling it an ornamentation because I it's not even a 16th. It's
And for what it's worth, Abigail, just so you know, what you just showed, it's the first time I've ever done a cluck.
you've done a clock? What do you mean?
No, the cluck, you know.
Oh,
Sound.
really?
I never even tried it before, but from watching you, it's the first time I've succeeded with that.
Hey! Oh my gosh, Candy, that's so exciting.
It's not really in what I use very much,
Yeah.
and but I've never, you know, the few times I've tried, I've gone, I've never quite gotten that, and then I just went, oh, that's what it is. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. Look, a lot of people are saying I clucked too. Does anybody have questions for Abigail? One edit. Let's see. If you do, put it in the chat, and let's make sure you get the conversation along with all the lesson here. Anybody? They could be typing.
Mhm.
Is the role, wait. Okay. Now we're getting a few. So let me go back here. Is the role in your Red and Blazing song one of the ones described today or a different approach?
That is such a good question. So that Red and Blazing, I almost was going to use that song today because I was thinking about how it covers a lot of material, including it's directly inspired by a song by Buell Kazee called "The Dying Soldier," and it was about my cousin who died when I was young, and I just missed him very much, and I still do. And so I wrote that song to talk about how we can meet each other even if it isn't in person. And uh, it is a it is drop C tuning, which is important because it will affect your technique greatly, in especially in round peak style, where you're having to quarterly think about the chords and the pull where the pull offs are, which is where the chording is. So with Red and Blazing, it was drop C, so I had that low drone the whole time.
You want to demonstrate it?
Let me see if I can. I didn't work on it last night, so it has been a decade maybe since
Well,
I've.
let's call it a demo and not a performance.
Okay, sounds good. So it would be I would be doing chording on the top two strings that would be representative of standard G, but I would have my low string down to C. This was a lot of the basic of it is that's really the basic role of the whole song, and that is so what's special is the tuning and the technique of the fingers just are so related. And so in this tuning I want that obtuse kind of ambiguous sound of the chords that sits somewhere in between standard G and open C, which is a really special sound, and it's a little confusing, but what I love about it is it's kind of like that veil between life and death where you don't know, we don't really know. And so when you allow that ambiguity of the tuning to represent the emotional character of the song, it can be very powerful. At least it's powerful for me in terms of my experience of the song. So that was really important to me, and this really is where it all is this sort of unresolved place. And so that really is like a round peak where I'm emphasizing the pull off of the four chord to this more open sound. So the standard G pull off to this more open sound. So I have, okay, so all I'm doing is pulling off on the second string, turning the B into a C, and then letting it go back to the B again over and over and over and over again, which a B should not be in the open C tuning. So that's the point, the feeling of the unresolved, the unclear. So it's just the basic round peak roll. So I'm hitting the second string and I'm pulling off on the first fret of the second string. So So it's fretted. Sorry, I should say that. I'm starting fretted on the first fret of the second string, and pulling off. So it's fretted to pulling off. And then I strike down with my middle finger on the first string and pull up on the drone. I'll show that with the.
Awesome.
There you go.
Let me go back to a couple other questions. And by the way, for those of you who were in the Cousin Emmy workshop yesterday, that's exactly the tuning that she uses for the key of G. Remember, we put our fingers on the first fret, and she didn't really do big fat G chords. She left her finger on the index of the first fret, and then kept it real simple, just like what Abigail just did in terms of just having a pattern and keeping it going. Somebody had a good question. What's the slowest, simplest roll or pattern you recommend for a beginner wanting to accompany vocals?
Ooh, okay. Oh, gosh, it depends on what you liked because all of them take time to develop and all of them have their own beauty. So whoever asked that, was there something you liked or do you want me to? I'll just throw something at you. Let's see. Um, a lot of people say frailing is where to start, but I wasn't as moved by frailing. And so I didn't get as excited about it and didn't want to practice it as much. So you have to factor all of that in to what makes something simple to you. And so what felt more simple to me was drop thumbing. Then this was before I discovered round peak from Riley. So I would suggest, because of my preferences and what made me passionate about playing this over and over and over again for days, months, years on end, and I still am in love with it, is just the simple drop thumb technique, which I know I went through a lot of things. So I'll just show that to you again really quickly here. So you don't, in this situation, you could have your finger down to fret the major 7 chord. Oh, I did go to. I'm going to go back to the open or double C tuning, G, C, G, C, D. And honestly, G, C, G, C, D is my home tuning. That's what I love. I do not mess much with standard G. It's just not where I love to be. So everybody choose that for yourself. But this is where I hang out. It's hard to come back from drop C. It's so funny. I mean, to bring that B back up to, anyway. You'll find as you go on and you play a lot, or if you do play a lot, you'll notice which tunings are hard to go between and which ones are like, oh, that just snapped into place, That's a challenging one. Okay, so the basic drop thumb is, let's not even worry about fretting at all. You don't worry about the left hand. Let's just work on the right hand. Because that's where the magic under your voice is going to come from anyway. So, and again, I like to play up here, but for a lot of people, they really prefer to play here. It depends on your body, the ergonomics of the thing, just how it feels to have your arm over the banjo, in which place and which sound you like the most. So play with that. But for now, I'll just show you this. So strike down with your first finger on the first string. Then pull off with your thumb on the second string. Strike down again with your first finger on the first string, and then pull off with your thumb on the drone or the fifth string. I think that is just so delicate and beautiful. I fall on my knees. You don't have to change chords. I fall on my knees, pray to you, come and stay with me, little girl. Come and stay with me.
Gorgeous.
It's great, right? You don't need to change chords.
Gorgeous. Two quick questions. One, somebody asked if you are more concerned with technique than melody.
Oh, well, yeah. I think you're seeing my I place my values place an emphasis on right hand technique because I think it shares the soul of the banjo, and that's where I sit at least. And I think melody is powerful and beautiful, and I haven't spent as much time on that. So yeah, I'm
Yeah,
definitely.
but you've got such a great bag of tricks on your right hand stuff. And the last question is, do you work with a metronome when you practice?
I often do, yes. And I have to say, I always have. But once I started playing with Bela, that was a really wonderful lesson that he had already learned in his life. He's got 20 years on me, but I really definitely learned this with him because we're both banjo players. And man, do we hear that metronome differently. I'm like, I am playing with the metronome. And he's like, I'm playing with the metronome. And we are not playing together. So that is really something. But I would say just if you're doing most of your playing alone, turn on a metronome and try to find a way to consistently play with it. It'll show you so many wonderful things about um, your patterns. Like you tend to slow down in this one spot in the tune, or you tend to speed up at this one point in the tune. And so Bela and I, when we have arguments about rhythm and tunes, we say, let's let the metronome decide. And now we've gotten to the point where we hear the metronome and we know the way the other person hears the metronome, and we try to find each other in the middle. So that's a really cool thing. But yes, metronome is huge. Use it for a little while, ditch it. Play, 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 play. Use it for a while, ditch it. Play with it your whole life and ditch it your whole life.
Folks, I'm putting in the chat here a thing up on YouTube that I did for Ukulele Magazine on different ways of practicing with a metronome. And of course, the concepts are the same, regardless of whether you're playing a piano or a banjo or a fiddle or a ukulele. And if you want some more tips on practicing with a metronome, it's there. So we're coming down to the last couple minutes here. Abigail, tell us about your latest project on Smithsonian
Oh
Folkways.
yeah.
And I did, folks, you can save this chat, and I put a link to it in the chat, okay? If you want to save the chat, you go to the bottom right three little dots, and the first thing that you'll see is save chat. And so all the notes that we've made, the links and stuff like that, you can save the chat for yourselves. Um, and so tell us about your latest project.
Okay. Well, this latest project is a manifestation of a life of being very committed to and served greatly by working to understand Chinese, loving the mainland Chinese culture and learning about it my whole life. When I started playing the banjo, I realized I really had to bring the two together because China was there first. I was headed off to law school in China, and then I got waylaid by this thing. So right away, as soon as I started playing the banjo for a living and going on the road with Uncle Earl and doing my own solo tours, well, actually, I hadn't done that yet. I called my friends in China and I said, I'm not coming back to law school. I'm going to uh, be a banjo player and sing. And they go, oh, you sing and you play the banjo? So it was very surprising for me and for everyone I knew. So right away, I went on a tour of China. I went back 6 months after signed my first record deal, and I did my first solo tour of China, which meant sleeping on friends' couches and playing bars in Shanghai and Guangzhou and Beijing and Chengdu. And since then, I have been, although I've been creating a lot of music in collaborations with Americans and English only kind of material. I've also been doing a lot of creating with and collaborating with Chinese artists. So every year until I had Juno, my first son, 7 years ago, I would go to China twice a year, sometimes for 6 weeks each time. I would go on long tours, grassroots kind of tours, and then I started getting State Department tours. So I went from like playing in clubs with like the local erhu player or peepaw player, just jamming, a lot of droning on my part, and a lot of singing things that are in pentatonic so that we can just kind of make things counterpoint and work together, to State Department tours, playing huge venues with the best musicians in town who they bring out to collaborate with us, and just navigating all those situations. Well, this and those tended to be fairly quick, quick projects that would come together, within a few hours of a show, or it was a jam at night after a show. And I do have friends. I had a girl band in Beijing for a number of years, and we played this first jazz festival in Beijing. It was a hoot. It was great. But even with them, I'd fly into town and we'd work together here and there for a few times. Then we'd go do our material, and we did that for about 4 or 5 years. And that girl band was like Zhongren and Pipa and Guzhang, and me. And then I met Wu Fei about 10 years ago, which was right in the middle of my work with the all girl band in Beijing, who I thought I was always going to make a record with, but times changed a lot and it got harder. And so I ended up becoming really close friends with Wu Fei, who grew up in Beijing and spent a lot of her time in America after the age of 20, which was about the time I started going to China a lot. And we just really clicked. We clicked. We met in Colorado. She eventually moved back to China. I was in Tennessee. She moved to Nashville, Tennessee 4 years ago, partly to be in the town that I'm in. And that's when our collaboration really took off. We both had babies, same age. We'd hire a babysitter and we'd sit out on the front porch and the babysitter would play with them inside, and we'd get an hour or two, maybe twice a week. And we started to just tell each other stories of the folk music from our different cultures, songs we love, why we love them. And I would sing a song and she'd say, "Ooh, that sounds a lot like this song." Or we'd say, "Oh, I love cowboy songs." And I'd start singing her a cowboy song. She'd be like, "Oh, that reminds me of a song it's kind of like cowboys, Uyghurs in Western China. They ride horses." And we'd say, "Oh, well, let's share those. Maybe those songs will go together." And so we do a lot of weaving songs together. And that's what this project is really about. It's just called Wu Fei and Abigail Washburn, and it's out on Smithsonian Folkways, and it is a combination of Chinese and American old time folk songs. And the liner notes are extensive. They were written by a wonderful Chinese scholar who runs a Smithsonian Folkways kind of label in China, and it's just a joy. It's an intimate collaboration compared to the other collaborations I've done, because it's our lives meshed together, and it's had its challenges, oh my lord, but it has also been deep and fruitful, and it's changed me. And something to know is that we are also being featured. They asked us to write an essay, like words, for Princeton is publishing this essay of music writings by people around the world. Ruth Bader Ginsburg wrote something. I don't know what they asked us. So anyway, there's an essay we wrote together about this music and about its relationship. It's going to come out in the next few months. So
That's awesome. Folks, we're pretty much out of time, but I'm going to ask Brad to unmute everybody and let's give Abigail a great big loud resounding huge thank you for this wonderful and deep and soulful workshop.
Yay! Thank you.
thanks, you guys. What a pleasure. What an honor. Thanks for taking this time to hang out with me.
Really an amazing workshop, and we'll send you a copy of the chat too, so you can take a look at it if you want to. And everybody's writing in there. What a treasure! How wonderful! And here's a great one. The best workshops are those which you come away from feeling you've really learned something you can use. And hey, just so many thanks and good health and good luck to you. And we will be in touch soon because we're going to have a family music party.
Yes, we are. Yeah, Kathy and Marcy's music is both of my sons' favorite music. So Kathy and Marcy are alive in our home all the time. Oh my gosh. But really, I can't thank you enough, Kathy and Brad, for making this feeling of community on this day. It is going to be the wind beneath my wings for a couple days. So so good to be with all of you. Thanks for caring about what I say.
Of course.
Buddy, it was wonderful, and we're going to jump now because in under a half an hour we start Brad Kolodner's workshop. So thanks everybody for being here, and now go away so we can start the next workshop.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye, Abigail.
Bye,
Thanks.
Bye. Thanks, you guys.
See ya. Goodbye. All All right, I'll see you in the next workshop, Kathy.